The last 18 months have challenged us all. Yet through that adversity, our communities have risen to the occasion. Despite the hurdles we've faced and those still ahead, Connecticut businesses have proven their resilience. They showed up for us, and now it's our turn to show up for them. Do your thing, Connecticut. Employees are the lifeblood of any business. As a business owner myself, I know firsthand how difficult it can be to find and retain reliable and knowledgeable staff when it's not a pandemic, let alone in trying times like these. We headed over to one of my favorite restaurants in New Haven, Tavern on State, where owners Emily Mangrone and Shane McGowan managed to sustain their business during some of the darkest days of the pandemic, not only short-staffed, but without any staff at all.
Luckily, we opened in June of 2019, so we only had, 8 months or something, but we won a couple of awards, got the best new restaurant, and got some traction, and the neighborhood was really receptive to us being here in general, so I think that really helped us carry us through. I mean, not that it wasn't scary, because when that happened and we closed,
we had no
laid
idea.
off the whole staff, that was nobody knew what was going to happen, and we just kept happening in little waves, but we just kept trying to
It was just us, running around like madmen, just trying to get by because we couldn't afford to have staff at that time. But we're kind of workhorses, workaholics, borderline. So we pushed through, and now we're busier than ever, which is amazing.
And I love sort of the space. It's so relaxing to be in here, but it's also really elegant. I feel like it's a really nice mix of sort of exactly the vibe people want right now, which is they want to come and sit and enjoy themselves, but also have incredible food and cocktails. So I know that you guys are seasonal menu, which is amazing because I feel like that's really the way people want to be eating. And I've eaten so differently every time I've come here, and it's always, and I love that because it feels like every time you come, you're getting something new and fresh and whatever you're vibing on, which is really cool to see like where the chef's head is at and what they're into. And the cocktail program is amazing. So obviously we have some of the cocktails right here, but what was your experience like during COVID? Obviously you were a super young business at that time, and what has it been like navigating that and people coming back into the restaurant and to go, and did you do that, or what has that been like?
And from the beginning, what you mentioned about the space, which is exactly the message we wanted to convey to this neighborhood. We're a neighborhood restaurant, bar, meeting place, whatever. We don't want it to be pretentious at all, just a place to have good food and drink. So we sort of carried that philosophy through COVID and maintained ourselves as that neighborhood staple by giving the neighborhood what they needed at that time. And during peak COVID, when everything was quarantined, we transitioned to takeout only. This window behind you actually slides open, so we did sort of like a walk-up pickup. There's some photos of Shane like holding bags out the window, and just being that the demographic is very similar in this neighborhood to our age group too. It's like a lot of our peers, and I think they respect what we're doing. We're just small business owners. We don't have any backing, it's just us trying to make a living and do something good for the neighborhood that we enjoy. And what provisions was a huge thing from COVID too.
Yeah. So initially, I think we had always pictured that we would do another restaurant or bar concept, but during COVID, we started doing provisional things. So, and then we had the background in butchery, so kind of fell into place that we opened up the butchery shop.
It's really awesome that you can come here, like enjoy your experience, and then go and get market items. I mean, that's really awesome. I think that it's such a new, modern way of doing things to kind of to shop that way, to experience new food products that way, and I just think it's really awesome. I'm so excited about what you guys are doing here, and I think people don't realize that you have this dope like back garden area, and so you can eat outdoors here. So like people, if they feel more comfortable that way, they can do that, which is super cool. It's just I'm really excited, and I have to come back where I can like drink all of these things.
Yeah, for sure.
Next, we decided to head over to one of my favorite fast casual spots, Haven Hot Chicken, which is a business that actually opened during the pandemic. We asked owner Rob Latronica what that was like, while also grabbing one of their killer fried chicken sandwiches, obviously.
You opened this during the pandemic,
Yeah,
right?
we opened October 17th.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how has it been, and how has it been like just having to stay on your toes and everything?
Like originally we were planning on having 25 to 30 seats and a liquor license, which is something we do hope to grow to eventually.
Yeah.
But when the pandemic happened, we kind of like pivoted to doing like strictly takeout. And luckily our service is quick enough and we do curbside pickup for everything.
Cool.
So tons of people, probably about half of our business orders ahead, parks right out in front.
That's so awesome. You had mentioned that you sort of had one vision for it, and then you sort of pivoted to a secondary sort of pandemic-proof vision. Have there been any sort of silver linings to that, like as a small business owner?
Like, we get tons of guests and they're always really happy, but you don't have to deal with all the other stuff that's associated with side work and dishes and cups and stuff. So, yeah, it's been a whole new challenge. We're running a different model than we were anticipating, but it only made us better at what we do.
I also love being a mom with 3 kids. I love that you guys have a kids menu that's like a pretty specific kids menu.
Oh yeah.
Where I feel like I can give my kids something quick that's like not McDonald's.
Yeah.
That I can just give it to them. That's small business. I don't buy like an adult sandwich.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But forget my kids for now. This fried chicken sandwich is just for mama. Whether it's a pandemic or not, the service industry has always been privy to a unique set of challenges. One of those challenges is employee retention. So we called James Beard award-winning chef and restaurateur Bill Taby, whose Westport restaurant Kawanee is my hands-down favorite in the area. Bill has been focused on creating a more financially equitable environment for his kitchen and front-of-house staff at his restaurants for some time, and the pandemic was the perfect excuse to implement it. For people who don't know, can you just kind of give the overall kind of story of your restaurant group and the restaurants that you currently have today and kind of how that has progressed and changed over the years?
So I have 3 restaurants in Westport, and I had just taken on an opportunity in Norwalk. Started in Westport with La Farm, and we had sold La Farm a few years ago. But after La Farm was the Welk. So the Welk is going on 10 years this January, which is amazing.
That is amazing.
In the restaurant world. So we're super excited about that. Kawanee followed the Welk. That's our Japanese izakaya in Saugatuck, right around the corner from the Welk. Most recently, we have Don Mamo, which when it first opened in its first iteration was Jessup Hall, which opened about 4 years ago. And through the pandemic, I had made the move to sort of pivot to, I think, a more manageable cuisine. At least it's a little more to-go friendly than what Jessup Hall was. And like I said, most recently we opened up the Norwalk Art Space in a really sweet art gallery in Norwalk, which we're super excited about. And that's really breakfast and lunch, cafe, 9 to 4 hours. So a little different world than we deal with in Westport.
Obviously local small businesses navigating the very unexpected pandemic. I would love to kind of hear what that was like for you.
Thankfully, and I take great pride in our teams, we kind of just jumped into action, and immediately the first thing to do was, okay, how do we keep as many people employed as possible? That was really my first goal. Once we got past the point that we were going to close down the restaurants and really go to a takeout model, it was how do we keep as many people employed as possible?
I know that you started a kitchen share program a few years ago. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how that came about and sort of how it's impacted your kitchen staff?
So what we decided a few years ago was I needed to find a way to even this playing field a little bit. I couldn't watch the divide anymore. So we decided to add a 3% charge at the bottom, essentially a service fee at the bottom of all our checks. It's 3% of food, and that money went directly to the kitchen staff. So based on a point system, just like the servers would get. So we collect all the money through the week, mainly on credit cards, as you can imagine. And at the end of the week, we'd have a point system where chef would get 1 point, sous chef would get a half a point, cook would get a quarter point, and that's how we would sort of redistribute this additional fund. That for someone that's making $12, $13, $14 an hour, and then they get an extra $100 a week on top of their pay.
Wow.
It equates to almost $2 more an hour, if you would.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I just felt, it was time to make a change. Of course, I ran up against the people that would say, why don't you just raise your prices? I don't want to see this at the bottom of the bill. And I say, well, it's exactly the reason I don't raise my prices was I want you to see it. For me, it was a transparency purpose.
Right.
You get to see directly how you were affecting people. And if you could spend $100 on food, you should have no problem paying an additional $3. That really makes other people's lives a lot better.
A huge theme that has come to the forefront has been staffing and how crucial it is. So I'm curious about, these sort of awesome systems you have in place, like the 20% gratuity charge with every check. Now, has that helped you retain more of your front of house staff? Have you found that staffing is still a major issue, as it, I know, has been for a lot of people during the pandemic, or how are you coming out of that now?
We had taken the original 3% and said, this is great, but then again, through COVID, when we were getting people, we were working with half staff, and our very generous customers and community just kept tipping as if they were eating in the dining room. We were running into big problems. Like, what do we do with all this money? Because again, it can't, if it's a gratuity, it can't go to the kitchen staff legally. So we needed, in theory, to take ownership of that money by making it a service charge, and then we could redistribute it to the front and the back of the house properly.
It sounds like, what I'm hearing too is that despite sort of all of the challenges of the pandemic, there have been these sort of select silver linings, and particularly like not only in how you're running the business in a way that is more transparent and equitable, but also just in terms of the staffing. It sounds like really the cream is rising to the top, and ultimately you may end up with a better pool of staff and kitchen staff than you even had before.
Yep, I would agree. And I say it, as you said, this sort of, the silver lining, but I think the pandemic has been, if you're in the restaurant business and you're not coming out of it stronger, like, shame on you. And I really believe that. I just think we were given a great opportunity to reevaluate and reorganize our businesses, and the way we were all doing things, the way a restaurant was supposed to be run before, wasn't necessarily the right way. So this gave us an opportunity to just restructure and retool. And I just think we're going to see those changes, now moving forward, that are going to be better, not only for the restaurateur, but for its employees and for the customers, which ultimately is the goal.
We were happy to see that Kawani seemed to have their staffing situation under control. The same, however, could not be said for my favorite authentic Mexican restaurant, Azteca. We arrived on site to speak with owner David Vasquez, only to learn the news that the restaurant was closing their doors for good. It wasn't all bad news, though.
So tell me about kind of operating this restaurant in the market and everything during COVID. Like, what was that experience like?
We started doing really good, and all of a sudden, everything started shutting down.
Yeah.
Short on staff, people started getting sick.
Yeah.
And it was tough, but glad that we have a big family.
Yeah.
So we've been able to, to kind of like support each other there. But yeah, it's just gotten to a point where it's, we can't do it anymore, and we are getting business, like I said before, but not as much as we would like to.
Right. So when are you gonna shut the restaurant back down?
So we're planning to do it this week.
This week?
This week. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Last week.
So do you think eventually, would you ever, obviously you'll be focusing on the market a lot.
Yeah.
Would you ever expand the market back in, or would you do other locations? Like, what's the plan for the market?
So actually, we're expanding into this. The market we're expanding into here. And we actually have another project going on in New Haven for another market. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So that's our goal.
And when will that be opening?
Hopefully we're shooting for October. So
October. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So soon.
Yes.
I feel like people who don't obviously know you guys, it's so cool for them to know that there's that amazing market right there. I love all the products that are so nostalgic.
Yeah. We just try to keep everything very typical.
Yeah.
Stuff stuff that you usually don't get at any other supermarket.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like certain type of beans that that we use, and that they use back home.
Yeah.
So that's what that's
And the chilies
the chilies
are
as well.
amazing.
Yeah. So one thing is that we're known for bringing chilies from Mexico, because You got not like the fake ones, like Chinese
Yeah,
tap. We just everything's it's brought from Mexico.
that's amazing.
Next, we head to one of my all-time favorite shops, J Sites & Co. in New Preston, Connecticut. J Sites & Co. is a family-run furniture and gift shop that opened in 1986 when owner Joanna Seitz wanted to open a shop that was within walking distance from her daughter's school. She had no idea that it would become a landmark in the area, beloved by both locals and visitors from across New England. And much to my shock, unlike many of the other business owners we spoke with, Joanna told us that staffing actually became easier for her during the pandemic.
I think that the staffing situation, which has always been difficult in this area, it's very hard to find good staff who enjoy working in a store like this. Mm-hmm. I feel that we shed all the people that were just biding their time and not really into it. Mm-hmm. And the people that came to us were enthusiastic, supportive, loving. And it's now, the environment now feels so much more like a family place than it did before.
So tell me about sort of the history of the store, like how you got here to where you are today.
Well, we opened 35 years ago, and I opened the store close to a Montessori school where my daughter went so I could pick her up after work every day. I didn't want to have babysitters or nannies, so she came to the store and kind of grew up here, and now is running it. So
how was it sort of navigating COVID with the store?
Well, when the governor said that the businesses would close down, I looked at my husband and I said, we've had a good run. It's been a great 34 years, and we're going out on a high note. I didn't think we'd ever reopen. I didn't think we could recover from being closed. But the thing that happened that really surprised me was that all of our clients who have been with us for 35 years or less all had birthdays, anniversaries. They called us on the phone, they emailed us. We did so much business during the time we were closed. A lot of curbside pickup, a lot of mailing of merchandise, a lot of shipping of merchandise. So we were open, not to the public, but we were literally doing business during the closure.
Wow, it sounds like the community really showed up for you guys.
The community really showed up for us, and not only did they show up for us, but because this is a wealthier community, the wealthier people in the community wanted to make sure that the small businesses survive. So they donated a fund. They donated money to a fund, and practically every small business in town got $5,000.
Wow.
Just to kind of cover whatever they needed to cover.
Wow.
Utilities or whatever. So that really was special because they didn't want us to fail any more than we didn't want us to fail. Mm-hmm.
It's been so moving for me to hear about how many of these businesses adjusted their business models during the pandemic and how, in turn, their communities gathered around to support them. Whether it was the creation of staff funds for service employees, the closure of one business to make room for the expansion of another, or how things just seemed to fall into place at a 34-year-old business in a small town in Litchfield County, these conversations have brought with them some much-needed gratitude for all the small business owners out there just making it work during a time of such uncertainty. On the final episode of Happily Ever After, Connecticut Rebuilds, we speak with owners whose businesses managed not only to survive the pandemic, but thrive in spite of their challenges. Tune in to see how some of them are even growing and expanding to new locations.